Ladies and gentlemen, warriors of destiny, I don't care who you are or where you come from, when the oil of God is on your life, expect the target to be on your back. You can't walk in divine favor without also walking through demonic fire. Being anointed doesn't exempt you from attack. It attracts it, because the moment heaven endorses you, hell opposes you. There is something about you that intimidates the enemy. Not your appearance, not your resume, not your social following, but your calling, your purpose, that thing God whispered to you in the dark, that mission that keeps you up at night, that mantle that rests on your shoulder, that anointing, that oil. It separates you, it marks you, it calls you out. And make no mistake about it, the enemy recognizes oil. He saw it when David was anointed in front of his brothers. Nobody even thought to invite him to the ceremony, but heaven did. And from that moment on, David's life was never the same. The attack didn't start when he stood on the throne. It started when the oil hit his head. Some of you are wondering why your life got harder after you started obeying God. Why the warfare increased after you said yes to the call. Why you feel more resistance now than you ever did when you were doing things your own way. That's not coincidence, that's confirmation. You've been anointed but attacked. That's why friends turned into enemies. That's why doors that should have opened slammed in your face. That's why you're fighting battles that don't even make sense. Because the enemy doesn't fight what isn't a threat. He fights what carries fire. He fights what carries authority. He fights what carries an assignment from God that can't be duplicated or denied. You've been asking God, why me? But heaven is saying, why not you? There's a reason your life shifted the moment you said yes to God. There's a reason the pressure intensified, the warfare escalated, and the attacks became more strategic. The moment you received the oil, you also received a target. The anointing didn't come alone, it came with an alert to hell. Because when God anoints someone, it isn't silent. It echoes through the spirit realm. It shouts, this one has been chosen. This one is dangerous to darkness. This one carries something eternal. That's why the enemy launched a campaign against you, not because of your past, but because of your purpose. You weren't attacked because you were weak. You were attacked because you were loaded, packed with promise, brimming with destiny, overflowing with spiritual authority. The enemy doesn't chase nobodies. He's after the ones carrying fire, the ones carrying answers, the ones carrying generational change. That's you. The attack is not about what you've done, it's about who you are becoming. The moment you step into alignment with heaven, you disrupt the comfort of hell. You become a threat just by waking up. This is why you feel the resistance increase after breakthrough moments. This is why you often experience unexpected storms right after spiritual victories. Because the enemy can smell oil. He knows when someone has been appointed to shift atmospheres. He knows when someone's voice is about to shake kingdoms. He can sense when God is preparing someone to release freedom over regions, households, and legacies. He knows the difference between a crowd pleaser and a chain breaker, and you, my friend, are not here to entertain. You're here to set captives free. And the enemy doesn't wait until you've arrived. He attacks at the moment of anointing, just like David. He wasn't attacked when he was tending sheep, but the moment the prophet poured oil on his head in front of his family, the game changed. Saul's jealousy rose. Goliath showed up. Threats emerged. Because when you're anointed, hell assigns opposition to try to abort your mission early. It's not always about defeating you. It's about distracting you. If Satan can't destroy your calling, he'll try to discourage your spirit. If he can't stop your purpose, he'll try to wear down your confidence. He wants to make you question what God already confirmed. But make no mistake, this is not just random adversity, this is strategic attack. That warfare is targeted. That pressure is calculated. And it's hitting you because you matter. Because you've been marked. You're not ordinary, you're anointed. You're not just talented, you're chosen. And chosen people walk through things others don't understand. That's why the betrayal cut deeper. That's why the rejection felt personal. That's why people walked away without warning. Because God was removing access to what couldn't handle your next level. The oil requires separation. Elevation demands isolation. And the attack often shows up as loneliness, not because you're unloved, but because you're being positioned. The attack is a reaction. It's a response to the awakening of your calling. The enemy knew what was coming before you did. He saw glimpses of your assignment and launched an early strike to intimidate you before you stepped into it. But what he didn't count on was your resilience. He didn't count on you still praising through the fire. He didn't count on you still walking with a limp, but moving forward anyway. You are proof that the anointing is heavier than the attack. That what God placed inside of you is more powerful than anything sent against you. The anointing doesn't repel the enemy. It attracts him, exposes him, and ultimately defeats him. Because once you realize you're not under attack because you're failing, but because you're filled, everything changes. Sometimes what feels like punishment is actually proof. Proof that you're on the path of purpose. Proof that you're carrying something heaven sent. You keep asking yourself, why is this happening to me? But the real question is, why wouldn't it? You're not in this battle because you've lost your way. You're in it because you found it. The attack is not condemnation. It's confirmation that the enemy sees the glow you didn't even notice. Confirmation that the anointing you carry is more dangerous than you ever imagined. See, spiritual warfare doesn't break out over the lives of those who pose no threat. It breaks out over those who have been entrusted with something powerful. If you weren't dangerous, hell wouldn't be interested. You're not being attacked because of where you are, you're being attacked because of where you're headed. The enemy sees the trajectory, he sees the momentum, he sees the growth, the obedience, the alignment. And he knows if you keep walking in this direction, chains will break, atmospheres will shift, strongholds will fall. So he does what he does best. He attacks not just your life, but your identity. Not just your circumstances, but your confidence. He wants to make you believe that opposition means you're out of alignment. When in reality, it often means you're right on track. Some of your greatest resistance comes after your greatest acts of obedience. You stepped out in faith and all hell broke loose. You finally surrendered and suddenly your peace was tested. You said yes to the assignment and doors that were once open began to slam shut. That is not a mistake, that's warfare. And warfare is a sign you are walking in authority. Don't let the intensity of the fight convince you that you're failing. The enemy doesn't waste weapons on people who aren't walking in power. The shaking is real, but it's not meant to destroy you. It's meant to reveal what's unshakable inside you. There's something in you that hell can't silence no matter how loud the noise gets. There's a word over your life that cannot be revoked by warfare. The opposition is simply the echo of your obedience reverberating through the spiritual realm. That's why the battle comes after the breakthrough. That's why right after you made progress, you got hit with delays. That's why the moment you started to gain clarity, confusion crept in. It's not because you missed it. It's because you hit it. You hit a nerve in the spirit. You touched territory you weren't supposed to access without opposition. You stepped into a realm the enemy thought you'd never survive. And now he's launching every dart he has left to push you back to where you came from. But what he doesn't realize is you've come too far to retreat now. The presence of attack is not a signal to stop. It's a signal to press in. That fight isn't there to scare you. It's there to show you what you're carrying is valuable. You are not the victim of a chaotic life. You are the carrier of a divine mission. That's why you've been pressed, crushed, and stretched. That's why your name came up in rooms you weren't even in. That's why your character was tested when nobody was watching. Because heaven was preparing you while hell was opposing you. And the tension between the two is what proves you're walking in purpose. So instead of cursing the conflict, pay attention to what it's revealing. The enemy always shows his hand when you start walking in authority. He starts whispering lies when you get too close to truth. He starts sending distractions when you're nearing deliverance. That pressure you're under is a compliment in the spirit realm. It's not because you've lost your way. It's because you're about to shake something loose. Before there was ever a battle, there was already a word. Before you were ever attacked, you were already anointed. Before the warfare even formed, the calling had already been spoken over your life. You didn't stumble into purpose, you were chosen for it. Heaven called your name long before hell came, for your mind. You were selected before you were surrounded. The attack is real, but it's late. Because the oil came first. The calling came first. The mantle came first. You were already marked before the enemy even knew what hit him. This is why you can't let the attack rewrite your identity. You can't let the pressure make you forget the promise. You can't let the fire make you question the fire inside of you. You weren't called when you got approved by people. You were called when you were still hidden in the pasture, still overlooked by man, still unknown to crowds, but fully known by God. Just like David, God didn't wait until he was crowned to anoint him. He didn't wait until he had status. He anointed him in front of his brothers in a place of rejection, in a space of obscurity, because God doesn't need man's stage to begin heaven's assignment. You were chosen when no one else was looking. You were set apart in secret. And now that you're stepping into visibility, the enemy is reacting. Not because you're weak, but because your arrival threatens his territory. He's not attacking the insecure version of you. He's attacking the anointed version of you that finally stood up and said, "Yes, Lord." That version of you that survived what was meant to break you. That version of you that's starting to believe, pray, walk, and declare from a place of holy confidence. The selection wasn't based on perfection. It wasn't based on popularity. It was based on assignment. Heaven looked at your life and said, "I can trust this one with fire. I can trust this one with pain. I can trust this one with purpose that'll outlive them." And so you were picked even when others looked more qualified. You were picked even when you didn't pick yourself. Because God doesn't call the most obvious, he calls the most obedient. He doesn't always call the loudest, he calls the ones who carry the weight. The ones who will go through the pressing and still praise. The ones who will carry the oil with integrity. And now everything you're facing is trying to make you forget that you were chosen before the chaos. That the calling preceded the criticism. That the promise came before the pain. It's not arrogance to walk in authority, it's agreement. Agreement with what heaven already said. Agreement with what God whispered when no one else was listening. That whisper still holds weight even when your world is shaking. That promise still stands even when everything else is falling apart. You didn't earn it, you inherited it. You were born for this. Don't let the enemy convince you that the current conflict has canceled the calling. He's a liar. What he's really afraid of is that you'll remember who you are. That you'll start walking in rooms with authority. That you'll start breaking cycles in your bloodline. That you'll start confronting demons that used to intimidate you. That you'll realize that oil wasn't a moment. It was a mantle. A mantle that still rests on you. A mantle that still speaks louder than the noise. A mantle that covers you even when you feel surrounded. Heaven didn't change its mind. The calling is still intact. The anointing didn't expire because of the attack. And even if you feel pressed, confused, or delayed, you are still the one. You are still the answer to a problem this generation is facing. You are still the light in the middle of a dark assignment. You are still carrying what others didn't see, but God already ordained. The anointing on your life is not a shield from battle. It's a source of power for the battle. So many believe that once you're anointed, the attack should cease, the warfare should lessen, and life should finally settle into peace. But the opposite is often true, because the anointing doesn't cancel the fight. It equips you for it. When God pours oil on your life, he's not making you untouchable. He's making you unstoppable. He's not removing the challenges. He's giving you the capacity to overcome them. The anointing gives you access to supernatural strength in natural storms. It's divine enablement wrapped in heavenly fire. You are not called to run from opposition. You're called to confront it. The oil on your life is a signal that you've been given spiritual weapons. Weapons of discernment. Weapons of wisdom, weapons of prayer, weapons of supernatural endurance. You're not out here fighting with your hands. You're fighting with heaven. You're not relying on willpower alone. You've got anointing power backing you. That means the pressure won't crush you. It will shape you. The fire won't destroy you. It will refine you. The anointing gives you divine stamina in situations that would drain anyone else. The anointing doesn't keep you away from lions. It gives you the authority to shut their mouths. It doesn't keep you out of the furnace. It walks you through it without a scent of smoke. It doesn't avoid the Red Sea. It parts. The anointing prepares you to handle heat, weight, warfare at a level others can't comprehend. People may look at your life and wonder how you're still standing, still serving, still speaking life. What they don't see is the oil. What they don't see is the anointing that covers you, surrounds you, strengthens you, and lifts you up when everything else is trying to tear you down. This is why the enemy works overtime to convince you that the anointing is a burden. He'll whisper, you shouldn't be going through this. If God were with you, why is it so hard? He'll try to twist your thinking, make you question your identity, and convince you that pressure is punishment. But pressure is preparation. The oil came with fire for a reason. You weren't anointed to sit comfortably. You were anointed to shake foundation. You were anointed to pray when others panic. You were anointed to stand when others scatter. That's why you feel the tension. That's why the fight is intensified. Because you carry what breaks the yoke and that terrifies darkness. The anointing also sharpens your vision. It gives you eyes to see what others miss. You can't live like everyone else because your assignment is not like everyone else's. That oil places a demand on your life. It calls you higher. It makes your convictions stronger. It increases your sensitivity to the Spirit of God. That's why you can't go back to old patterns. That's why compromise tastes bitter now. Because you've been empowered for more. The oil on your life is pulling you forward, even when your environment tries to pull you back. You've been equipped not just for survival, but for supernatural impact. And yes, the weight can feel overwhelming. There are moments where the warfare is so loud, you wonder if you're making any difference at all. But the anointing doesn't only empower you for external battles. It also fortifies your internal world. It gives you peace when nothing around you makes sense. It gives you clarity when confusion tries to take over. It gives you stability when everything is shaking. That oil is not just on you, it's in you. It flows from the Spirit of God inside of you, and it pushes back against every lie, every attack, and every voice of fear. You're not just going through the fight. You're being forged in it. You're not just facing warfare, you're becoming a weapon. Every tear, every betrayal, every spiritual battle you've survived has not been wasted. It's been working something in you, sharpening something in you, shaping you into someone who doesn't just survive storms. You silence them. Who doesn't just endure pain, you carry power through it. You are being transformed, molded, and equipped into someone hell fears and heaven trusts.
See, you thought you were just under attack. But God has been using the very thing sent to break you to build you. He's been taking what was meant for your destruction and turning it into your development. The enemy thought if he threw you in the fire, you'd burn. But what he didn't realize is you are fireproof. You are being refined. Your character is being reinforced. Your discernment is being sharpened. The anointing on your life is thickening with every round of warfare. You're not coming out weaker. You're coming out deadlier to darkness.
What's been testing you is also teaching you. The delays have taught you patience. The betrayal taught you who to trust. The silence taught you how to hear God's voice above the noise. The rejection taught you how to stand alone and still walk in authority. Every part of your process has been preparing you for a level of purpose you couldn't step into if you stayed comfortable. Growth doesn't happen on mountaintops. It happens in the valleys, in the confusion, in the midnight moments where you want to give up but choose to pray anyway. This is a season where God is not just giving you victories, He's turning you into one. You are the weapon He is crafting. He is sharpening you with pressure. He is strengthening you with adversity. He is training your hands to war and your fingers to fight. He's putting a roar in your spirit, an authority in your voice, a fire in your bones. You may not look like what you've been through, but what you've survived has qualified you to walk in a power others only dream about. You don't just carry an anointing, you embody the breakthrough. And the enemy knows it. That's why the attack is personal. That's why the heat is rising. That's why the same test keeps circling back, hoping you'll break before you rise. But you're still standing, still believing, still worshiping, still moving forward, even if it's with a limp. And that limp doesn't disqualify you. It proves you've wrestled with God and came out with a name change. You're not who you used to be. You don't respond like you used to. You don't fold like you used to. Because every battle has built you. Every fight has taught you how to carry the oil with precision and power. God isn't raising up fragile believers. He's raising up warriors. And warriors are not born, they're built in battle. You are in a divine boot camp. You are not only being anointed, you are being weaponized. And you're not just a weapon of emotion or opinion, you're a weapon of truth, of light, of holy fire. You're being prepared to confront what others run from. You're being equipped to destroy what others tolerate. The more you endure, the more dangerous you become to darkness. And the very wounds the enemy hoped would weaken you are becoming the very evidence of your authority. This is why you feel the weight. This is why the pressure hasn't let up. Because weapons aren't formed in comfort. They're forged in the fire. Your scars are becoming your strategy. Your past is becoming your platform. Your pain is becoming your purpose. The battles you fought in secret are preparing you for victories in public. The version of you that's emerging from this season is not the same person who entered it. You're being refined, redefined, and released with new power. There is a reason the enemy has unleashed hell against your life. It's not random, it's revelation. He's seen something about you that maybe you haven't even fully realized. Your assignment carries weight. Your calling has consequences in the spirit realm. You weren't just anointed to sing a song, preach a message, or post inspiration. You were anointed to shift nations, disrupt darkness, and break generational bondage. That level of purpose does not go unnoticed. When you were anointed, the enemy didn't just see oil, he saw impact. He saw influence. He saw heaven's strategy being wrapped in human form, and he panicked. The devil doesn't waste his weapons. He's too strategic for that. He doesn't attack just anyone. He targets the ones that threaten his system. He assigns demons to delay those who carry keys to doors of deliverance. If he can't destroy you, he'll try to detour you. If he can't curse you, he'll try to confuse you. Because confusion is one of hell's favorite tactics. Make you question your identity. Make you doubt your progress. Make you second guess the very thing God already confirmed. Because if he can't take your oil, he'll try to make you believe it's not enough. But hear this, your assignment is greater than your attack. The warfare may be loud, but it is not lasting. The fire may be hot, but it is not eternal. What God placed in you before time began cannot be erased by temporary circumstances. The plan didn't change just because the battle intensified. You may feel pressed, stretched, and even overlooked, but none of that disqualifies you from what God has already ordained. The assignment still stands. And when heaven gives you a mission, hell launches a counter. But God doesn't give assignments without power. He doesn't call you into something without equipping you for it. This is why you can't let your emotions lead you. This is why you must learn to war in the spirit even when your flesh wants to retreat. Your assignment isn't based on how you feel, it's based on what God said. And what God said is irrevocable. You can't run from it, you can't deny it, and the enemy can't cancel it. The attack might have knocked the wind out of you, but it didn't disarm you. You still carry authority. You still carry access. You still carry assignment. That thing inside of you, the vision, the passion, the spiritual burden, it didn't die. It just got buried under battle fatigue. But the fire is still there. The mission is still alive. You didn't come this far to quit. You didn't survive all those sleepless nights, broken moments, and silent seasons to lay your mantle down now. You carry a word for this generation. You carry deliverance in your mouth. You carry healing in your hands. You carry clarity in your voice. You are not an accident. You are an answer. The answer to cycles in your family. The answer to injustice in your city. The answer to chains in your generation. And yes, the weight of it all can feel unbearable. Yes, you've prayed for relief. Yes, you've asked God if he chose the right one. But what if the burden isn't proof that you're failing, but proof that you're carrying something eternal? What if the pressure is not punishment, but placement? God placed you in that family for a reason. He assigned you to that city for a reason. He gave you that testimony for a reason. And even though the battle has tried to convince you to walk away, the oil on your life keeps pulling you back to purpose. It keeps reminding you that you were sent, not just born. You were appointed, not just present. You were strategically placed, not randomly tossed into this world. You've been attacked because the enemy fears what will happen when you fully step into who you were created to be. When you no longer flinch at opposition. When you no longer doubt your authority. When you rise up and realize that your assignment isn't just about you, it's about everyone tied to your obedience. One tied to your obedience. One tied to your obedience. One tied to your